pip pip, pip pip pop pip pip, mete wadlo dewa, pop pip pip, pip pip pop pip pip, mete wadlo dewa.
As we celebrate La Rose, the feast of St. Rose of Lima, this is what we are coming to. And as you pointed out, the church was not always in favor of these societies. It was in 1860, 20 years, roughly, little more than 20 years after emancipation, the societies were said to have been thriving very well. They were giving organization and thrift. They were like the local credit unions of the people in these parts. And they were proud of themselves, their self-image. But the bishop in Trinidad, his name was Etheldrich in 1860. He didn't like the fact that people were suspicious of what they may be about, and he excommunicated, unfortunately. But that excommunication was lifted subsequently. So then, yes, we have moved from the mural to the societies, La Rose y la Marguerite. And today we celebrate St. Rose of Lima. She is a saint, one of the earliest saints of the New World, perhaps the first. I'm not sure on that, but certainly she was the first saint of a Creole progeny, a Creole background. And here I interpret the word Creole in the sense of the sociologist, that Rose of Lima biologically was a mixture of a Spanish father and an Amerindian mother. And so she's hailed by the Amerindians as well as the Africans and all those who came, especially as laborers, to these parts. Marilyn, I want you to put in a bit here on this particular aspect. Tell us something of what you think of the La Rose.
Vive La Rose, Mama La Rose. The church celebrates the feast of La Rose on the 23rd of August. Mais Mama La Rose a célébré Fete La Rose, li 30 on the 30th of August. So while the church celebrates La Rose, St. Rose of Lima, who was from Peru, Lima in Peru, a virgin, a woman of faith, young woman who trusts in God. Our societies in St. Lucia, through their festival, Fete La Rose, coming together with all different types of persons, particularly because we know that this festival was born in St. Lucia. That's what some of the writers said. It was born in St. Lucia during colonization. And these people, the slaves, the ex-slaves, really wanted to reflect what was happening in society, the structure of society, where there was a king and a queen and princess and princesses, the white-collar jobs, the blue-collar jobs of nurses and policemen. So they were more or less imitating these people, but doing it in a form of festival. And as both Deacon Popo and Deacon Harvey said, that despite the fact that these people, as members of the church, of the Catholic Church, were being supportive of whatever work, helping in building the churches and so on, the hierarchy of the church did not accept them. It was the feast, one of the feasts of procession in the church. What was it again? That they were going around, and the priest was not happy and tore their banner and even excommunicated them. But despite this, as he said, the society remained resilient, and they worked hard, and they were together, and they worked like a society, giving support to each other. So they were all out to enjoy themselves, but at the same time to give support. And despite this, the festivals, the La Rose Festival, the La Marguerite, They didn't die. They continue to live even today, and they are now part and parcel of the church, giving support to the church and even celebrating their feasts and their festivals within the church. So we have seen that when we talk about indigenous culture, that if we are to Christianize our people, we have to be able to bring together what it is that is part of their daily living, part of their daily lives. And this is what the La Rose is all about. Living out the experiences of the people and bringing it into church. So this is where we can bring together faith and life. And this is what La Rose has been doing. So vive La Rose, toute maman Saint-Plicy, and nous fêter La Rose encore.
Vive La Rose, vive. Yes, Marilyn, you have really unraveled to us the very heart of what is Fete La Rose. And in fact, you know your history very well. You were attributing to me having heard of this incident, but I just double-checked it in the history of the island, by the way, and I'd read it before. Yes, today we pass on now to Brother David. Tell us a little of the La Rose.
In the beginning of when we look at history, after 1838, yes, we have established that initially the church, the Catholic Church, the missionaries never understood the culture. They never understood the historical antecedents to why the freed slaves, and even during slavery, those societies were practiced. But at that time, and the point I want to make is that we had 100% Catholics, you know, because of history. We are now centuries, a couple of centuries afterwards, we are not anymore 100%. We are approximately 66, 65%. Now, what is the implication? The implication is that a lot of the Catholics who had embraced the culture, the cultural heritage, the African roots, who have joined other religions, are not seeing or valuing the development of murals and icons of our history. So in a sense, there is a risk that if the church continues to bleed in terms of its Catholic identity, that can be a threat to the ongoing integration, in other words, the indigenization of our church to reflect who we are. That can be threatened because of the difference in a theological perspective. For us as Catholics, we strongly believe since Vatican II that the church must be localized. Our God must be seen looking like us, and that is why in the paintings by Dunstan, Sir Dunstan St. Thome, we are seeing, whereas before we had a lot of white images, you know, we are seeing that, and we thought that God and Jesus Christ was looking like these Europeans. But because of that revolutionary input by Dunstan St. Thome, commissioned by the church, we are now seeing, especially for our younger people, you know, we're now talking about Black Lives Matter, you know, the constant struggle in terms of cultural identity by our young people. All of us went through that in the 70s and the 80s when we were trying to understand our institutions, whether it's in terms of the judiciary, politics, and the church as well, you know. So I just want to make that point that, and maybe appeal to Catholics who have left the church, our church, that to continue to integrate our culture created by God, given to us by God, because culture is all part of God's creation. It's all part of how we dance, how we sing, how we express ourselves. We have our symbols. All that is part of God's creation. To embrace it so that we can truly reflect the historical roots of our Caribbean peoples, as well as how it interacted with a foreign culture in that sense. And there's a concept in in religious history called syncretism, where you can see, it was Idris Hamid in the 70s when we had the explosion in Trinidad and the whole Black Power movement, who made the point that the church, even if our culture was crushed on the ground, but it survived, it continues to survive. And that is one of the ways that African roots, African culture, and the Indian culture has been crushed, but not necessarily pushed on the ground.
Thank you very much, Brother David. You have really opened up the issue to make it relevant to our times. It is a fact that our history is a history of survival. And I rather like that point that you have raised, that the 100% Catholicity of this island, having been decreased to 60% now, there is a loss not only of the Catholic faith, but a loss in terms of appreciation of identity. This is a very important point for us to bear in mind, because we need to know, who am I? Who am I determines to the extent to which I will esteem myself, value myself, enable me to stand on my own feet. And our people here have so much to enhance that particular image through language, through their way of life. Yes, it is something for us to ponder and to be ready to explain and to interpret, especially to the young people.
Vive la Rose! Vive la Rose! What is Vive la Rose encore?
Vive la Rose!
Dio oui pas Dio non, pas jamais Dio sigue la voix.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Pas jamais Dio sigue la voix.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Yo bless us si la voix ni l'argent.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Aïe Dio oui pas Dio non.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
En bas la terre pas ni plaisir.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
En bas la terre pas ni plaisir.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Yo bless us si la voix ni l'argent.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Dio oui pas Dio non.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Priez la voix, louez la voix.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Chantez la voix, maman et mon chien.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Yo bless up si la voix si l'argent.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Aïe Dio oui pas Dio non.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Maman la voix, papa la voix.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Docteur la voix, louez la voix.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Yo bless up si la voix si l'argent.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Aïe Dio oui pas Dio non.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
En bas la terre pas ni plaisir.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
En bas la terre pas ni plaisir.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Yo bless up si la voix si l'argent.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Dio oui pas Dio non.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Maman la voix, papa la voix.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Château la voix, président.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Yo bless up si la voix si l'argent.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Aïe Dio oui pas Dio non.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
En bas la terre pas ni plaisir.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
En bas la terre pas ni plaisir.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
Yo bless up si la voix si l'argent.
Dio oui pas Dio non,
pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. La was vite ni en fait. Yo invité wadlo. Le wadlo ka ale. Il vole bouche flè la was la. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. La was vite ni en fait. Yo invité wadlo. Le wadlo ka ale. Il vole bouche flè la was la. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. La was vite ni en fait. Yo invité wadlo. Le wadlo ka ale. Il vole bouche flè la was la. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. La was vite ni en fait. Yo invité wadlo. Le wadlo ka ale. Il vole bouche flè la was la. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. La was vite ni en fait. Yo invité wadlo. Le wadlo ka ale. Il vole bouche flè la was la. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. La was vite ni en fait. Yo invité wadlo. Le wadlo ka ale. Il vole bouche flè la was la. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Pop pop pip pip. Pip pip pop pop. Pop pop pip pip. Mettez wadlo de wa. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. And pas quitter la was tomber. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. And pas quitter la was tomber. Priez tabouye moi. Priez chaque man moi. Priez guitare man moi. And pas quitter la was tomber. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. And pas quitter la was tomber. When the police la was. When the mama la was. When the chatwa la was. And pas quitter la was tomber. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. And pas quitter la was tomber. Priez maman la was. Chantez maman la was. Dansez maman la was. And pas quitter la was tomber. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. Priez maman la was. And pas quitter la was tomber. Vive la rose. Vive la rose. Vive la rose encore. Vive la rose.